All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Good evening to everybody, committee members, board of trustees, Mr. Santos, and district staff, members of the community. The committee. The time is now 6:12 on this, the 26th day of June 2013, and I call the Citizens Bond Committee meeting to order. Mrs. Bruni, could you please call roll of the steering committee?
Richard Morales, Chair. Sylvia Bruni, Patty San Miguel, Joey De Leon, Laura Montemayor, Peter Redondo, and Lara Uribe, all present.
Thank you, Mrs. Bruni. And I'll ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and the Texas Pledge. Moving on to our agenda item number 2, the approval of the minutes. It's my understanding that the minutes will be ready at the next meeting from the last meeting, so we'll take no action at this time. Moving to our third agenda item, this is our opening comments by committee members, and I'll go through the rules again. Persons who are committee members wishing to comment publicly may do so in the public comments portion of this meeting. We will designate public comments at the beginning and at the end of each meeting. Comments are going to be limited to current committee agenda items. And no presentation shall exceed 3 persons for any side of any issue, nor shall the time per subject exceed 10 minutes. Can everyone hear me back there? Okay. Delegations of more than 3 persons shall appoint 1 person to present their views before the committee. For those of you that are not committee members, please be advised that the Board of Trustees will have a standing agenda item at every regular board meeting, at which point the public can make public comments of the proposed bond from any citizen. Okay? So with those rules in mind, is there anyone at this time who would like to make a public comment? I think we have a microphone down here, so... Anyone at all? Now, I'll remind you that we will have a public comment time period set aside at the end of this, at the end of today's meeting. So, if there's something you'd like to say now, you're welcome to come forward. Anyone? Okay. All right. Thank you very much. All right. So, moving on to agenda item 4, and we've talked a little bit about our subcommittees, and today's our first meeting where we're going to break apart into subcommittees and form those subcommittees. There are 5 current subcommittees that have been broken up. One is new construction, additions and renovations, technology, security, and finance. There will also be a 6th subcommittee, which will be the Speakers Bureau or PR committee, that will go out into the community and present some of the information that we're learning about today and that we're gathering during this process. That committee hasn't been formed yet, but we have formed, based on the responses we got at the last meeting, there was a formation of the subcommittees, and those subcommittees have been formed. You may have already been notified.
Yes.
So you've probably already been notified. I think everybody's first choice, everyone got their first choice for those subcommittees. Now, I'm going to go ahead and read off some information. The chair and the vice chair of each of those committees, and identify the UIC staff that will be participating with those subcommittee meetings, and I'll also give you the location for each one of those subcommittees. The new facilities subcommittee, chaired by Sylvia Bruni, and I'd like to recognize Mrs. Bruni because she has given or has 50 years of education experience and dedication to this community, and her first year as a teacher was the first year that the building that we're sitting here today was constructed. So Ms. Bruni, thank you very much for your You know, I was told this was pre-approved that I could say that. So you can blame Judd if I didn't have that approval. But anyway, we appreciate all the hard work and the work that you're showing on this committee as well. Okay, so Ms. Bruni will chair the new facilities. It'll be in the library. The committee meeting today when we break shortly. The vice chair is Agustin Ballesteros. And the UIC staff that are going to be involved with the new facilities committee is Enrique Rangel, David Gonzalez, and Cindy Rodriguez. The second committee is the additions and renovations. That's going to be in room 114. The chair is Patty San Miguel, and the vice chair is Susana Hinojosa. Okay, the UIC staff involved with that subcommittee will be David Garcia, Juan Davila, Ignacio Alanis, and Mel Cruz. The third subcommittee is technology, and that committee will meet in room 112. The chair will be Ms. Laura Montemayor, and the vice chair will be Jackie Ramos. The UIC staff that are involved in the technology subcommittee will be Judith Garcia, Alicia Carrillo, Carmen Escamilla, Emma Lessa, and Hector Perez. The fourth committee is security and safety, and that'll meet in room 110. The chair will be Mr. Pete Arredondo, and the vice chair will be Joey Diaz de Leon. The UIC staff involved in that committee will be David Canales, Robert Chapa, Celia Rosel Taboada, Clemente Camarillo, and Eduardo Zuniga. And the last committee, the finance committee, will be in room 111. The chairperson will be Lalo Uribe, and the vice chair will be Mr. Bill Johnson. Okay? The UIC staff involved will be Laida Benavides, Sam Flores, and Norma Farragut. Okay, if anybody has any questions about that, we can talk after we break. All right, so now that we've formed the committees, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take a break from this meeting, give the subcommittees an opportunity to go back, to meet, to go through their presentations and go through their information. At an hour from now, I have 6:20 on my watch. At 7:20, we will reconvene in this room and go through the public comments period. If your committee gets done before an hour and you've got to get back, and you're free to go. You don't have to come back. If you feel like you want to come watch the public comments or be engaged in the public comments, that's great as well. So you have the option of either coming back or staying. Okay? So, all right. So I'll go ahead and let Mr. Santos and Judd address you.
And I also want to thank you for being here with us tonight. Let me just make sure we identify who's in what committee. Mr. Rangel, can you stand up? Mr. Rangel will lead the group to the new construction. Mr. David Garcia, can you stand up for the additions and renovations? We'll walk the group for that. Judy Garcia, I think is probably there at the school. Mr. Perez, Hector Perez, will walk the technology. On security and safety, Mr. David Canales. Of course, finance, Ms. Benavides, Laila. In each of the rooms, we've identified, we have your light snacks here. I'm sorry, Judy Garcia's back there. I'm sorry, Judy, I didn't see you. We have light snacks, water, and so forth. The handouts that we gave you tonight is a handout of all the presentations for all the committees. This way you have a complete package. Okay, with that, again, I want to thank you for being here. I want to let Mr. Gilpin, obviously, Mr. Montemayor, address the group. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
On behalf of the board, we'd like to thank you guys again for coming out, and just like to make one point as usual. In real life, I don't always just make one point. Those of you that know me know that, but trying to be efficient, again, efficient. The one point I'd like to make tonight is what this building represents in our thinking about monies that are well spent. So when you're working in this building, you can think about that. You think about all the kids that have come through here, all the utility this building has had in this district for 50 years. And certainly it's appropriate for Mrs. Bruni to be on that new construction committee because you're sitting in this building that's had all that utility, and she was here the first year. I think that not only applies to buildings, also new technology and security. And we really just need to make sure that we keep that on our minds. If we spend the community's money well, I think it's reflected, as is the case with this building, positively, and hopefully we'll make some decisions here in these meetings to come out with some results like that again. So thanks again.
I'd also like to thank the members of the committee. You have taken your time from your busy schedule to be here with us this evening and the last 2 weeks. Personally, I think this is an important endeavor, having the citizens issue their opinions as to what the district needs, so we can forecast and see where we're going to be in the next 5 years. You're in this building, assuming it's on purpose, so you can, where's the renovation committee? Right here. This building is one of the first buildings at UISD. I went to high school in this building, as well as down the street. In my district, which is District 5, I have some of the oldest buildings in UISD. Clark Elementary School, Troutman Middle School, Troutman Elementary School, Nye, United Middle School, so and the 6th grade campus here across the way. So these are buildings that represent a lot of the history of UISD, and they do need some upgrades and some renovations and whatnot. But technology as well. The district is starting to flow into an area where our students are being engaged in technology. Our graduates in the workforce, our graduates are going into a lot of technological fields. So we'd like to see what your recommendations are in that respect. And the new construction obviously is very important for the future of our students. Again, I believe this is an important endeavor, and I really thank you for your input, for your ideas. And if you eat lunch or breakfast with people or dinner, you can see how their ideas are shaped and formed, and you have a lot to do with that. And I have discussions all the time. I read a blog by Jay St. John yesterday talking about how this bond may not be needed, and the enrollment is not growing. In fact, it's decreasing, it's declining, and our numbers are not showing that. So, it's important that we receive your ideas and your opinions. So I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
I guess we'll ask the first.
Yes. Yeah, Enrique, if people that are in the new facilities, Mr. Angel, you want to start walking out there, whoever's in that group, this way it may be easier to follow him.
Now that you know how old I am, put 2 and 2 together. I never tell the year, although I don't really mind admitting. But I tell friends that if we had a Laredo, what is it, the Guinness Book of Laredo Records, not world, but if we had a Guinness Book of Laredo Records, I'd be in it. Because not only was I here when the school, well, I wasn't literally here when the building opened. The building, I don't mind telling you, this building opened in 1963. And it opened with a junior class. They were growing them. I graduated in 1964. Don't do the math.
There is no way that is possible.
Dad can tell you because she was one of my kids.
Not in 1964.
Not in
1978.
And in those good old days, I come in, it is the very first senior English class. And I take that very first senior English class. And I don't mind telling you, I fell in love with teaching. I fell in love. But in those days, not like today, that first year I taught a class of freshman English, sophomore English, junior English, senior English, and I taught the PE class. This is a woman who doesn't have the gene for, I don't have a sports gene. I never dressed out. It was a phenomenal beginning. I loved it. But I can tell you, and this was we've moved it around a little bit, but this was a library, and it was an underground shelter. That's how it was built. It was a bomb shelter because we were in the middle of the Sputnik trauma. They were worried, Cold War. We were an underground shelter, so the history of this place, though, is very, very close to me, and I know just like I have a stake, I very much have a stake in this school district. So does every single one of you. You were not selected because you are yes people. My understanding is that principals and board members were asked to look for folks who were very invested in the school district, who didn't have a problem asking questions, who are very committed to their children. Not necessarily all of us still have children. I have great-grandchildren already. But you were selected because they knew they needed people who would be very much determined to do what needed to be done. And you know as well as I do that if there is anything that is going to shape this community, continues to shape the community, any community, it's going to be education. There's a very powerful comment that was attributed to Lyndon Johnson years and years ago. And essentially what he basically said that day was that what he had learned was that the answer to any problem, literally the answer to any problem in the world, he wasn't just attributing it to the United States, that the answer to any problem in the world was the education of our children. That's why you're here. And so they're going to lay out. You've already gotten a whiff of it. You've already gotten a lot of detail and a lot of data. They're going to lay it out for us today. And then I'm going to tell you what we're going to do. And I want to introduce to Agustin Ballesteros is another stakeholder. And I don't know that he needs any introduction. He's been an educator and a coach.
40 years.
Pues que gané. Por un poquito. But very much invested also, not only in the school district, but literally in the community. And I think every one of us has a bio that fits beautifully. One of the things we're going to do, we're going to listen. They're going to basically brief us on key data having to do with the way this school district builds schools, and then they're going to lay out the data having to do with the populations and the areas and the districts, different geographies. And then I'm going to tell you what we're going to do. We're 47. I understand there's 47 of us here. We're going to literally randomly group you into 4 groups. Randomly into 4 groups. And later I'll let you know which one randomly. You're going to take each feeder pattern. What we want, and we basically want you to come into this randomly because the assumption is that you're committed not to any one area, you're committed to the entire district. And so once we've listened to the information today, we're going to ask you, we'll randomly group you into 4. Depending on how much time we have, we're hoping that you'll be able to get into your group, select a chair, select a reporter, someone who will be able to report for you. And then after that, what we're going to do, I don't know that we can do all of that today, but I know that the second meeting is definitely going to be a working meeting. By the end of the second meeting, the intent is that, the goal is that we will walk away with some very definite recommendations to make to the full committee. Okay? Are there any questions before we turn it over to staff? Okay.
We have within your packet that you received in the auditorium, there are 2 handouts, 2 booklets that will be the ones that we'll be using. One is Citizens Bond Subcommittee for New Construction. And the presentation that we have on the screen basically included in this booklet. And then we have, and this was prepared by staff. And then we have a second booklet that says United ISD Long-Term Facilities Master Plan for New Schools. It was prepared by our consultants, master planner, Kel Munoz, Metaphor Studios Architects from San Antonio and Laredo in partnership. So this is the second booklet. And basically what they contain is the first booklet talks, like as Rudy mentioned, about our construction program, our experience over the past 10 years. It includes some information on our typical standardized elementary school, middle school, high school, and some information on cost, procurement methods, and cost of schools statewide. And the second booklet is probably more of the information that you will use in the work session. It has the properties that have been acquired by the district over the past 5-6 years for thinking in long term for future construction of new schools as will be needed. And as well as it also includes some site plans and adaptations that have been prepared by the architects. Very preliminary, but just how those schools would look within those neighborhoods and within those sites that the district currently owns. So we're open to, like Mr. Santos mentioned, we're open to any other properties that may be, that you may have information that may be available, we will definitely consider that. And we listed all the properties on a map in this handout, and then at the end of those two presentations, Ms. Rooney will coordinate into the work sessions. We probably may not have a lot of time this time around, but at least you'll have the information. And we can work on that and digest it and review it. Send us any questions or feedback that you may have. You have our contact information, emails, or feel free to call us. We also have a handout that we passed out. It's a one-page that Mr. Garza prepared with his staff. It's one page, try to make it as simple as we could, but with a lot of data. So you don't have to work with a lot of different, you go through all this packet of information and enrollment, student enrollment projections. This shows our situation throughout the whole district as far as student enrollment, number of classrooms for high schools, middle schools, and elementary schools, and as well as portable classrooms for every feeder pattern, because when Ms. Rooney divides the entire subcommittee to 4 groups, each one of the subgroups will work with one of these quadrants of the district, and you look at the properties that we own within those geographical areas of the school district.
If I could just add real quick housekeeping. The packet that you have should have information for all the committees. That way that you can be informed about everything that's going on in all the committees themselves. So, we're only going to work on the 2 items that he's discussing here today, or the 3 items, but you'll be given every committee's information so that you can, at your leisure, read through it. Even though those committees will come back with recommendations, at least you'll have somewhat of an opportunity to review the information. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, well, that's basically the agenda that we have for this subcommittee on youth construction. The introductions are Ms. Rodriguez, who's our Executive Director of Elementary Education, and Mr. David Gonzalez, Executive Director for Middle Schools. They're here also to answer any questions that you may have regarding the instructional facilities. I'm more in the construction and operation side of the house, but I know this has to do with instruction, so they are here to help us answer any questions or give any information. Because everything goes back to the instructional program. We'll discuss the prototype designs. We call them the prototypes. We've been working at United ISD for the last 15 years using prototypes to standardize, and we'll go over that. Then we'll have just a very brief presentation on the different methods of procurement, of delivery systems that we have, the type of different that are available for school districts, and what we at United have been using for the last 10 years. And what results we've obtained with that particular method. Then we'll talk a little bit about our long-term facilities master plan, which is what was prepared by our master planner, consultant architects. And then we'll go into the work session 1, where we'll divide the subcommittee into area groups. And I mentioned we may not have, since we have 1 hour a day before we reconvene for the whole citizens committee. We may not get to do much there, but we'll give you all the information, and then on July the 10th, we're going to meet again in this room, correct, in the library, and we'll be ready to roll up our sleeves and work and see what you all recommend. Our prototype elementary school that we currently have been using the last 10 years, actually. Now it's going back to about 10 years where we've been building these schools. In 2000, we started the planning design for the new elementary school. It took us about 2 years for the planning process. In 2003, we started our first construction, but elementary schools as well as middle schools, high schools at United are really planned and designed by our teachers, our parents, our administrators, and our community. The architects, we think of them as part of the facilitators. In the past, what has happened, many architects or engineers would come and design the schools, and when the teachers moved in, my experience was the feedback that nobody had asked them really what was needed or how the classroom should be designed. So, on the direction of the board, in the year 2000, we formed a committee that met for 2 years. Teachers, administrators, parents, we invited students also from the elementary, middle, and high school for those committees. But on the elementary school, We invited the community members, we had parents, PTC members, as well as some contractors to give us ideas, and the designers, architects, engineers, and we developed our prototype, which is Borchers Elementary School was the first school that was built using that prototype. And there's an aerial view of Borchers Elementary School. Some facts about that prototype: the size is about 93,000 square feet. It's a capacity for 900 students. It needs to be built between 10 to 12 acres, and that's the ideal site. But we have built it in an area of down up to 8 acres. But this is ideal. And the square feet per student that we have there, is 103. Now, in the past, our schools, we used to have prototypes before 2000, but prototypes that we started back in the early 90s were for 600 students. And by the time the school opened, we had to be moving in portable classrooms. So the board, through the years, has decided that we really need to be more realistic as to what are the needs of the community, and we increased the size to 900. What are the results of that prototype? Well, since then, we started the construction program. We built Borchers, Bonnie Garcia, Centeno Elementary, Malakoff, Dr. Malakoff Elementary, Colonel Santos Benavides, Faskin, and Killam Elementary. Also, the results were that this district-wide elementary school facilities resulted in equality, equity throughout the district, as well as quality facilities. The value of our prototype elementary school has been a result, one of the results has been that the cost-efficient designs resulted in some of the lowest costs for construction in the state of Texas. Our past experience in the year 2000, 2004, 07, when we built 6 of these schools, what we noticed was that if we were to design the schools and bid the schools out and build them one by one, our costs were escalating throughout the 80s and 90s. So we decided to design one prototype that was the most efficient design based on what teachers were telling us and parents and students in the community. Well, it resulted in $75 per square foot. That was actual numbers of the experience that we went through in those 4 or 5 years. Those numbers, at the same time that we were building those schools throughout South Rio Grande Valley and South Texas, the cost per school per square foot was $134. And the state average for elementary schools was $149. So United's experience on our construction program was we were 44% lower than the average elementary school in Rio Grande Valley, and 50% lower than the average elementary school average cost in Texas. One of the reasons that I was sharing with Ms. Bruni and some community members was that we decided to combine all the whole program and use a volume purchase. With the assistance of our board and the procurement department, we were able to bid out a package. Instead of building one school every year, we knew what we were going to build in the program from 2003 to 2005. So we put it all together, and we got a price for all those schools. And we froze that price. And we told all the contractors, we're going to be, and suppliers and material providers, we're going to be building these schools. So we purchased everything, we stored it, and we're using it as the years went by. So by the end of the 2007, 2008, construction costs had gone up to about 100, 110, but we were able to maintain it at $75. Plus we got the volume purchase, the economies of scale. When we purchased in larger quantities, we obtained incredibly low prices for steel, everything. We purchased kitchen equipment, the metal building, brick, all materials. So UISD adapted the standardized idea or the prototype of building components, which resulted in lower architect and engineer fees. I know you're an architect engineer, you're probably not very happy about that. Sorry about that, the architects are back, but it was a good result because we felt we didn't need to be reinventing the wheel and redesigning the same school over and over and paying full fees for practically the same design. So after the first design, everything else was really a lot lower. Architects didn't have to redesign anything, just the site design. And fees were reduced by about 75%. for all architectural fees. We had lower construction costs, like I mentioned, because of the larger quantities, and contractors were able to get better material prices. Lower number of change orders. A change order, typically for those of you who are not involved in construction, once you have a contract, any change to that contract, if you change the scope of work, anything you add, one door, one window, anything is going to be costing higher than when it was bid out competitively, because the contractors will try to make up some of their losses and get a higher number. A change order is not a good thing if it's an additional cost. We always try to get credits if we find a way to lower the cost or reduce anything. We found out that the lower maintenance and repair costs have been a good experience for the district because we standardize all the components. We have a very fast-track design-build method, which improved our schedule. Typically, an elementary takes about 12 to 15 months to build. We were able to build them in 6 to 9 months. So we save anywhere from 5 to 6 months, which is time. Savings is money. Contractors were able to reduce their overhead, their fees, and lower the cost. That was one of the big factors in lowering it to $75 a square foot. Economies of scale, like I mentioned earlier, by volume purchases, and the quality. All schools, whatever one of the 4 feeder patterns, the district had the same exact facilities. Teachers had the same resources. Everybody was equal, and that really was a great benefit instructionally. So on the $142 million 2003 bond program, we did have 7 change orders, but there were credits. Just for your information, resulting in a total of $407,000. How did that come about? Well, during the design, teachers, after we opened the first school, we brought up all our teachers back. Said, okay, what is it that you are not comfortable or that you would like to see improved in this prototype design? And they gave us some inputs. Some resulted in savings. They had good ideas on how to design it more efficiently, as well as the contractors and architects gave us more input. So as we built the second, third, and fourth year from 03 to 07, 08, we came up with change orders to reduce it, the cost, and $407,000. Also, there were savings in the entire completed project from the numbers that we had on our budget based on what we thought it would cost. But once we were able to get those economies of scale through the prototypes, we got lower bids, and those savings we left it in a reserve. We were able to do more projects than what was approved by the bond, by the taxpayers in the bond program of $142 million. As an example, Nye Elementary had been slated. The plan was to just remodel the school, build some new classrooms. Well, with savings that we accomplished, we were able to rebuild pretty much the entire school to a new campus. So all of the projects that we had on our bond program were completed on schedule or ahead of schedule. Lamar Bruni Vergara was the one middle school that we built, and it's a prototype that I'll review in a minute. That was built 1 year ahead of schedule. We were ready to build it, and it was built and opened like 1 year ahead. Elementary schools were also moved up, and since we had all the materials, and we were building in 6 to 7 months instead of 12 months, we were able to open schools at an earlier schedule than we had, and that saved considerable amount of money not having to purchase portable buildings to add throughout the district.
Can everybody hear over there? Is everybody here okay? Correct?
Some of those key features on our elementary schools, we have the site design. Every one of our 8 prototype elementary schools that we have, and we also have this loop, traffic loop throughout all of our elementary schools as much as possible. They all have it, to allow parents to do a pickup drop-off area for early childhood, and then another area for pickup drop-off for upper grade levels. Get all the traffic away from the public street. It's safer for our students, safer for the parents. We don't have that traffic congestion that we used to experience. So this was a key feature in our site design. We have covered entries for the seasonal weather, inclement weather for both drop-off areas. We have one item, we have the courtyard, which is protected within the campus instead of having everybody outside, especially the earlier area, childhood area. Building access, on key features that we have on our prototype is that it was one of the big concepts of teachers and parents told us, the older schools, when we have a meeting, it's not accessible to the public. We have to go through the entire school. As an example, the libraries in the basement. It's not easy access when the parents and community need to use the facility for after hours functions or events or adult classes. So we decided to build, based on that input from the community, the gymnasium and the library on the corners of the building with after-hour library access and after-hours gym access. We could shut down the rest and secure the rest of the campus. So there was no access for anybody other than the area that was located for that function. We also have the separation of the traffic, bus and parent traffic. Direct access to special education areas. All our special ed classrooms are right here, right, very close for parents and students. We have indoor holding areas for the drop-off area, pickup of students in this library. So that was a very advantageous feature of this. But one of our biggest concerns that we heard ever since then, and it's, again, now it's resurfaced, but it's always been the safety. So one of the key features of this courtyard was that it would be a secure with lots of lines of visual control for our teachers and students to be in an interior area where there would be plenty of supervision. We have simplified access and visual control of the playground right here from all of our classrooms. Straight corridors throughout the campus to make for better lines of the entire site. And there's control points, very easy for an administrator to control from these 3 locations for safety and security. If a teacher or an administrator stands here, they can see 50% of the corridors. They know who's there and who's not supposed to be there. Other design features in this prototype elementary school is we have our music room. It's adjacent to the stage. Our gymnasiums include a stage. So instead of having the old concept of the stage in the cafeteria, which is very small, we moved it to the gymnasium based on input from teachers. We have every classroom that throughout the campus has windows for exterior views. The older schools, as an example, Clark Elementary, where many interior classrooms, no daylight, no outside exterior view. We have multiple teachers' workrooms. We have also computer labs, 2 computer labs right here that are adjacent to the library and very accessible to the community, so parents could come in and use computer labs for adult lessons, for adult classes, or for any function, and it's very accessible without having to open up the rest of the campus. Every classroom again has windows with exterior views, and there we have an exterior learning area with an amphitheater where teachers can take our students for lectures. There's some photos of our prototype elementary school, and we chose Killam Elementary School, which was the last A school that we built. Some views of our full-service kitchens and hallways. All of our hallways in our new prototypes are ceramic tile, very low maintenance, high durability. Here's a picture of the access into the campus. One of the key items that we modified on our designs is to utilize concrete for all of our driveways, for all the heavy traffic that goes through the campus. This is a photo of our interior courtyard with the amphitheater covered exterior classroom. Where's the library that has the exterior doors for access and the computer labs in this corner. Our cafeteria, also the cafeteria has a ceramic tile and plenty of daylighting and access for functions. They can go also into the cafeteria without having to go through the entire campus. All photos of our corridors. All of our exterior doors in all throughout our campuses, they're closed from the outside. They cannot come in, anybody from the outside, unless they have a key. But they can exit. We have devices that are called panic hardware devices that, in case of an emergency, students can exit with an administrator. But they're always locked with the exception of the front door access. It's also locked, but it has access control, and I'll go through that in a minute as to how the administration can allow visitors. Here's some photos of our student restrooms. All of our partitions are all built with concrete, ceramic tile floors, and our gymnasium with a stage, and also the access for the community and for after-hours events. We have our playground units. We have 2 covered areas, one for the early childhood, one for the upper grade levels. They're secure, all fenced areas, and with immediate access into the building, as well as plenty of visibility from the main building. What I was mentioning about the access, through the front doors, which are always closed and locked, there's a way for a release mechanism. We have a 2-way intercom system where any visitor has to pretty much has like a doorbell. They have a button and they have to be allowed into the campus. The administrator inside, normally the receptionist or the attendance clerk, has a visual on this intercom system of the person actually requesting to come into the door, and they have a 2-way communication, ask them to identify themselves, what their business is at that campus. And we have this system at every one of our campuses district-wide, middle schools, high schools, all of our facilities currently have this system. When the administrator feels it's appropriate to allow this visitor, they can buzz them in, release through a button, and the hardware will open, unlock, and then they can have access into the school. High schools are a little different. I'll go through that in a minute because we have security guards, police officers at the entrance also. Another system that we have for security at all of our campuses, elementary, middle, and high school, is the Raptor system. It's the nation's leading visitor management system for school security. It provides instant sex offenders and background checks to enhance our school safety. Every visitor has to go through the reception, and they run their information through the Raptor system and identify if they have any sex offender records or background, and they are not allowed, of course, if it comes out positive. And we've had instances of those happen.
By show of hands, real quick, how many have entered our prototype elementaries? Okay. What we wanted to do was just to make sure and kind of go through all the prototypes, because some people may have never entered our facilities. We wanted them to have a really good understanding of why, when, and what we do when we do those construction programs. So.
How about the prototype middle school? Which is Lamar Bruni Vergara, is the only school that is our prototype.
Yeah, that's the only prototype.
So,
yeah.
so what, less than half. And of course, United High School.
How many have entered United High School, the new unit?
About half also, the first, but we'll go through that in a minute. This is our middle school, Lamar Bruni Vergara Middle School, built in 2008, 2007. Some of the results of the bond program, this was part of the 2003 bond program. We had 1 middle school to be built. And what we experienced on this prototype, again, that our cost per square foot, and this includes all site work, utility work, turnkey, was $107 per square foot. At that time, the average cost for middle school was $140 a square foot. For state average was $155 per square foot. That proved to us that the system, the program, prototype, standardized, as well as the design build method was proven to us, because our costs were 24% lower for the middle school and 31% for the middle school in the state, lower than the state of Texas cost, 24% lower than the Rio Grande Valley or South Texas. We actually had visitors from the state controller's office. They came and visited with us. They studied our methods. We served as consultants to them because they were presenting to the legislature several ideas and bills on how to standardize some of the construction to lower construction costs. And they realized through the State Architects Society, as well as facilities administrators and TASBO, that our costs were much lower, between 20 to 30% lower than state averages, and even our own. And the reason we compare to both, because state averages tend to be higher than the Rio Grande Valley, South Texas, because our labor costs are less expensive. Materials are the same for everyone. Actually, materials, we've noticed some materials are higher here than in Austin or Houston because of the manufacturing locations, but labor cost is lower, as you can see back then. And the same trend exists today, this in this economic period, where you can see here the state average for middle schools was 155 versus the Rio Grande Valley and South Texas was 140. So we have about $15 less per square foot, but we lowered it even 24% more to 107. When we told at TASBO, we made a presentation, they couldn't believe that. They wanted to come and see, what are you all building? It must be sheetrock, walls, and the cheapest material that you have for parking. And they couldn't believe us that it was actually, everything was concrete, parking areas, concrete pavement, no asphalt. And everything is masonry walls, 30, 40-year warranted metal roofs, which are the most expensive. And they said, we have to go see that. And they came and visited our schools, and they were really shocked. And that's why the design-build method became very popular, where a lot of public entities have started using it now. It's been around, design-build, as some of you may know, you're in construction, in the residential area, in commercial, where builders are designers, and they have a team, but not in public school construction. Well, now it's becoming very popular, where the University of Texas system and Texas A&M University have adapted now design build as well as construction management. Here's our prototype middle school, La Marguerite Vergara, the main front entrance. You can see there our library has plenty of day lighting. Cafeteria. Restrooms are all, like I mentioned, all masonry. We don't have plastic partitions. Yes, sir.
I was looking on page 5.
Yes, sir.
It just has a little school facts for the prototype. Do they have that for the middle school prototype as well?
We can provide that to you.
Because on the on page 5, it sort of says the size of the school,
For the elementary.
capacity, yeah, and so forth. But I don't see that for the middle school. So
We can certainly provide that information for the middle school and the high school, square feet. We have everything I was mentioning, the restroom, floor to ceiling, ceramic tile. All the walls are masonry. All of our corridors are ceramic tile. We're learning more in vinyl, which is very high maintenance. You have to be waxing it constantly, repairing it because of foot traffic. At La Marguerite Vergara, as well as Borchers Elementary, built 10 years ago, we have had 0 repairs on any of the flooring, which I believe that's back in 2006-07. Laredo ISD also followed our concept, and all of their new schools went into also ceramic tile corridors versus vinyl tile. Prototype middle school, we have at La Marguerite Vergara an entrance in the back for bus pickup and drop-off area that is covered. That was included within the $107 per foot. This is the main entrance and main corridor for La Marguerite Vergara. And again, all corridors, all the walls are masonry. We have high ceilings. It's just something the state representatives were amazed. Because anytime you go higher, it's more expensive to build. But we felt this was appropriate because it's the main corridor for 1,900 to 1,000 students. So this is when they have access from any of the classrooms into any of the general areas. Some of our typical classrooms, we have the life skills management classroom. Courtyards, our courtyards are all paved, and we have some landscaping there within the area, and teachers come out here, and sometimes they do some of the instruction in these areas. They bring their groups out. We have a fully equipped kitchen. Every one of our schools has the food chill program, where we have our food production center prepares it, and we have all of the walking coolers and heaters, walking coolers and freezers right here in the back, where we keep all of our food supplies ready to prepare for our student meals. Another view of the serving lines. In the schools, we have 3 serving lines and a gymnasium, the wood competition, wood floor, and all of the locker showers are in this area in the back. This is one of our typical computer labs at the middle school where we have the perimeter of the classroom or the lab. We have up to 35 computer stations plus the teacher station. But at the same time, for lectures, we have the interior part of the classroom with student tables and desks. When they go into practice, then they go into the computer stations. This is our band hall. Here's an approach to the high school, to the middle school, where everything is concrete pavement. This is for buses and parents, but normally the school buses will go through here. Parents will go through the traffic loop. Another view of our interior corridors. Any questions on the middle school? We're going to the high school prototype, and of course, every high school we have constructed over the years has been a different design, but we followed the board at the time. Since 2005, 2004, 5, we started designing the high school, and it took us about 2 years of design, and we started construction as we were finalizing the plan. There's another advantage on the time element on the schedule. But they decided that we really should also look at trying to standardize a high school design, a concept that is efficient, is functional, has a lot of teacher and educator input, and it's not only efficient or effective to build, but also to operate, maintain, and that serves the needs of our schools. And we came up with United High School. One of the key requirements from our teachers, and we had about 40 teachers in this committee, and practically unanimously, was that they wanted the high school to be enclosed, completely enclosed, so the students would not have to go out of the building during classes when they change periods from one class to the other, like the old United High School, which is currently the 9th grade. It's an open concept. So they wanted everything enclosed, so everything had to be covered under roof, everything, every classroom, every general support service area. So that's why we had to make this hallway that was wider, because eventually there would be about 2,500 to 3,000 students at one time or another walking through these hallways when they're changing classes and going to the cafeteria or gymnasium. The result on our bond program for the high school was in 2007 when we received the proposal was cost us $112 per square foot. It's 24% lower than the average high school cost in South Texas at that time, and 31% lower than the average high school in the state of Texas. At that time, the Rio Grande Valley, South Texas was $147, and the state average was $163 per square foot. Numbers from 2007-08 for construction of schools to this year, 2013, have not changed drastically. They've changed a little bit, they've gone up with inflation, but not much. So we're still looking at some around these numbers for construction of secondary schools. But again, we were able to achieve this 24 to 30% lower because of the design build method that we used, our standardizing of a lot of the systems. We try to standardize everything within the building operating system, air conditioning, electrical, so that everything was designed the same manner that we use for the middle schools. A lot of those components that we use in middle schools, we started using it on the high school so that we could have lower maintenance and construction costs. There's some photographs of the high school, and all of our high schools have a security guardhouse at the main entrance that is manned and to the security officer from the time the gate opens at 5:30, 6 in the morning until the school shuts down. Here's a view of our student plaza that we have for the high school and our main entrance. This is the entrance to the high school. We have metal detectors here, I'll cover that in a minute, but a lot of visibility was one of the requirements. as anybody comes into the building, there's plenty of supervision here and visibility. Our library, one with a higher ceiling, daylighting throughout the perimeter. Cafetorium. Now in this concept on the high school, since the cafeteria is much larger, we do have the stage, and that's true for all of our 4 high schools. But the cafeteria is a good size. It has ceramic tile, high ceilings, and the air conditioning system is separate from the rest of the high school, so that when we have functions here, we don't need to turn on the entire high school and only operate this area. Here's some more views of our library, our corridors. Again, every corridor in the entire building. And I'll get the information also for the high school as far as some of the key facts. 400,000 square feet of building. And I will get that information to all of you. Everything within the high school is ceramic tile in the corridors. Now this, you may be wondering about this hallway, the cost to operate. Well, that entire hallway, the main corridor that goes from one end to the other end of the high school is not air conditioned. It's actually just maintained at a very good temperature due to the materials, insulation levels and values. But it doesn't cost anything to air condition that. Lighting is minimal because the architects work with us to make sure there was plenty of daylighting to utilize our good sunlight that we have almost every day. So, but it's amazing. It's very practical and very low cost. And instead of students having to walk on the exterior, they're walking through the central corridor. It's well protected, it's safe, it's secure, and very easy to maintain.
What time were we supposed to?
Well, and I was gonna ask, I think they had said they wanted us to reconvene over there at 7:20.
Okay, well, I guess we'll just kind of run now here.
Huh?
About in an hour, they said, when we
Well,
got right.
because it's 7:15.
Mr. Gilpin, what do we remember?
Mr. Gilpin is
He's back there.
I thought they said
I'm not certain.
Okay.
I thought I understood that we were not going to reconvene over there until the next meeting.
That's what I thought.
We were going to just do this.
Let me go verify.
Finish.
Y'all continue, and I'll go
Did
verify.
Richard said something about we would reconvene for closing comments?
Yes.
I think you misspoke, though. I'll check that right now.
Okay.
Let me verify for y'all, y'all keep
The
going.
best thing, I think, would be for us to just be able to stay. right?
Yes, yes.
My understanding is that what we did over there was we began a meeting that doesn't end until July the 10th.
Okay,
And so we recessed to work with the committees, the subcommittees,
okay.
and then we will reconvene on July the 10th, but I'll confirm that right now.
And Mr. Morales may have misspoke on that, so we'll confirm that, we'll let you know right now.
Okay.
United High School, for the most part, is a 2-story facility versus the old United High School and all of our other high schools, which are 1-story. LBJ High School is also a 2-story building. That was the first one we built 2-story, but only the classroom wing for academics. At United High School, the committee decided to build all classrooms, science labs, all facilities, 2-story buildings. Less expensive to build, but also utilize less land, use our land, our site more effectively. But we do have the corridors throughout, and on some areas where we have the academic wings and science labs, we have 2-story corridors also. Here's an example of our interior corridors, our student restrooms for the high school. This is a typical computer lab. Some of our career technology, this is the air conditioning HVAC training lab for career technology path. We have the electronic equipment for hands-on learning, as well as the student lecture area. This is one of our vocational career technology programs. We have the welding, building trades area. Auto mechanics, a very popular program in all of our high schools, and here at United, we built this. We actually had some professional mechanics and auto business people join us in our committee when we designed this. So with that in mind, so students learn actually when they go out in a job, serving vehicles.
Okay, just to clarify, I'm sorry, Enrique.
Yes.
Just to clarify, we are going to recess later on today. meaning that we don't have to reconvene. We will reconvene when we come back in our second meeting, okay? So we can take your time.
We'll go on until we...
In other words, once we're finished here, you can go home.
All right. Great. Thank you. I'm going to try to go faster anyway, don't worry about it. We have a lot of things to cover. Here's our typical band hall. Pretty much we have this in all our high schools. It's very special acoustic ceilings for acoustic sound, and all the walls are heavily insulated for sound. We have our greenhouses for our agricultural programs, gymnasiums, and all of our high schools have two gymnasiums, competition gymnasiums. The size of our high school is pretty much required to be able to hold so many functions and events. Of course, we have all the athletic facilities and a 9-lane running track. Now all of our 4 high schools have a 9-lane running track. Up to last year, this year, Alexander High School did not have one, but starting this year, we've built one also, so all 4 have it now. One of the things that students actually, I remember one input that we had from our students was, all of our high schools are great, the classrooms, but between class lectures, when we have some time off, either after lunch, between study periods, there's nowhere for students to go. And we're all over in the hallways, and they don't want us in the hallways, they don't want us outside. Where do we go? So there was one input from all of our high school students that were in that committee. We need some student gathering areas. And it's fine if it's within the campus, but within the wings or somewhere, but we need more places to sit outside. So we developed this concept of the student gathering areas throughout the campus, throughout the United High School. In between the wings, I'll have you all picture that, but even before school starts or after school starts, we have a lot of, we turn all of our landscaped areas into benches areas, and they love that. They can meet, they gather, and it's all under supervision. Here's one of the typical courtyard areas that are used by our students, and sometimes teachers go out there with their classes. But it's all enclosed and very safe, but it has access to the main corridor. These are typical corridors between classrooms. Now let me touch briefly on this metal detector. And if you have been to our secondary school, you'll notice there's one metal detector placed at the main entrance of every middle school and high school. And they are carefully monitored by one security guard. That's at every one of our campuses. We also have security surveillance cameras located throughout the entire campus at the key locations where administrators tell us. And constantly, sometimes we're adding or modifying that when students always try to find little areas where they can hide from the surveillance systems. And as we're always one step behind them, but we're always trying to stay ahead of them. But we always get that information from the administrators, and we add security cameras whenever needed. But it's not unusual in a high school to have up to 150 surveillance cameras, just to give you an idea. And we have to be monitoring all of them constantly throughout the day. So these are the typical surveillance cameras that we have. We are thinking of changing some of the surveillance cameras to, and I think that's being discussed in the technology department, into high definition surveillance cameras, better systems than what we currently have in some areas. We have our monitoring system. Every monitor has the 16 cameras, and they're constantly rotating so that within 10-15 minutes they can basically get our administrators an idea of what's going on throughout the entire school. At our police department command center, we have this surveillance monitoring system. Not only can the administrators monitor the entire campus, inside and outside, we have surveillance cameras also on the exterior, but our police department can zoom in into any campus and any of the thousands of cameras that we have, and they can get an idea as to what's going on. And they're constantly, 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days, we have, these stations are manned by officers, and they're constantly monitoring what's going on throughout. If there is a lockdown or an emergency, they can zoom in and look at all the campus inside, in all the corridors, the gathering areas, the general areas, before the SWAT team goes in, or before the police, sheriff department or Laredo police go in, they'll know who's in there, what's happening inside our school. So this is always being monitored, and this is located our police department, but we have at every high school a similar installation for the police department who's assigned at that campus, as well as the administrators. Now, changing gears for procurement methods, the next item on the agenda was just briefly to let you know what the methods are available by state law, which is the Government Code Chapter 2267, allows public entities, school districts, to go through competitive bidding, which is a method where you request a price, but you cannot negotiate anything. Whatever price they submit, that is the amount that has to be awarded if you take it, if you accept it. Competitive seal proposal, and practically, by the way, almost very few, if any, public entities that we're aware of use this method. Competitive seal proposal is a lot more popular. Many, at least half of districts use this method, where you select an architect engineer. By law, we have to have an architect engineer for public facilities. And we ask for proposals, and not only are they ranked or evaluated on the dollar amount, but also on other criteria that consist of value, best practices. As an example, the contractor, what kind of experience they have in certain type of facilities, what kind of personnel do they have, their financial condition, what are their construction management experiences and staff. So there's other criteria other than just price. What is the references that we have and their quality of construction. So they're ranked by different criteria, and we give a score, and then we come up with whoever has the highest score. Construction managers, there's two types of construction manager programs, the CM agent and the CM at risk. Construction management at risk is also becoming very popular with school districts and state agencies, in which an entity contracts with a construction management firm that will provide pre-construction services during the design phase. They're actually the construction manager for the district or the entity. Even though there's also an architect and engineer, they work alongside with the architect in developing cost-effective designs. They also assist in estimating, scheduling, constructability reviews. If the architect comes up with a concept, the contractor may have some suggestions as to how to build or design that more efficiently based on their experience and based on materials, pre-engineered, manufactured products that sometimes may be able to be used in those designs. So that ends in a better design and more cost-effective design for the owner. The construction manager at risk also serves as the general contractor. They can also participate in the actual construction. So it's a construction manager, and the reason the word is called at risk, they're going to get a guaranteed maximum price that is given to the owner, and based on that design that they're coming up with during the process of design development, that price is guaranteed not to exceed. And that is one of the pros or the benefits of this system, is that the owner gets a guaranteed price, limited change orders occur, and they get a fee on the entire value of the project. The other method that is available under government code is design-build method. This is a method in which the entity contracts both the design and construction from one entity. A team of builders and architects provides a proposal. The design-build can consist of a contractor, the architect, and the engineer, and they contract directly all subcontractors who are responsible for the delivery of the project. So they also act as the construction manager for this project. The selection is based on a proposal that offers the best value to the district. The procedure is we look at qualifications first, and then a proposal, a dollar amount can be negotiated based on what the design criteria that the district requires. The design build, this type of method is best suited for newer renovation projects that are schedule sensitive. Like I mentioned earlier, if you're really in a hurry and you want to cut down on time, this is a much faster, fast-track method. Projects that are well-defined, if you're gonna start on a project, you're really not sure as to what your needs are, it's not a good system. But if you are, the requirements are well-defined, and we really know what is our design criteria, which is the case in our school construction, then this is a good method. Projects that use prototypes or also for additions is a good method. And just some of the, there's a handout there on page 57, a list of design build advantages based on what other districts have told us, or the university system, or what we experience ourselves. One of the things that we really liked about this system is that it's a faster delivery. It saves time and money. It's fast track. For example, United High School, it took about 2 years to design, but we started construction before the design was completed, so it saved us about 1 year. High schools normally take 3 years to build. United High School was built in 24 months. But you're building already your foundation and your site work, your fields, while you're finalizing your architectural designs. So it saves a lot of time. We also experienced a huge reduction in architect engineering design fees. Sorry about the architects again, but that was, we were able to save about close to $1 million by going to design build, because there was a lot of standardized items that already were built into the design, so that we didn't need everything from the scratch. You know, the builder, the designer, the team brings in a lot of information already, so that resulted in savings.
Let me just add real quick too. Under the construction management and the design build, the really important factor here is it's a guaranteed price. So basically the contractor, whoever we have, the construction manager, takes all the risk, so that if there's any cost overruns, they're 100% responsible for it. The only thing that would change is if we, the client, would ask for a design change or something specific, right? But other than that, they assume all the risks. So that's the other good part about it.
Correct. And that's one of the items that we have here. The second item, guaranteed maximum price, eliminates also the owner concerned with cost overruns. The experience that we had when we were using CSP or competitive bidding was that there's always cost overruns, because by the time the architects complete the plans and we get bids, everything was over the budget. The contractors were not involved in the beginning and always end up with higher numbers, higher actual prices. On the design build, they give you a guaranteed maximum price, even though the design is not completed, but it's guaranteed. Once we have to give them the definition of what the school is going to entail, and as the design is being completed, we already know what it's going to cost. It's a maximum amount. And that was one of the reasons, like I mentioned earlier, we did not have any change orders on any of the 140 million construction program, because we were able to get those guaranteed maximum prices. There is still a lot of flexibility for the owner to negotiate and the size and scope of the project during the design process, so we can get more savings during the design, because the contractor is already on board. So there's flexibility also on the design criteria, and value engineering cost reduction opportunities also during design as well as during construction. Now at this point, the next item on the agenda, we have the long-term facilities master plan. I have to change into another program here. But it's the other handbook, the other booklet that we provided.
Yes. On I guess based on previous information that we got, the growth has been steady since like 2000, right? Somewhere around 50-60% throughout the years.
Yes.
But some of these prototypes that you talked about already have portable classrooms. Yes. So like Bonnie Garcia has 12, some of them have 6, some of them have 4. Correct. Obviously, you build new schools, it alleviates these schools, but does the prototype in 5 years from now, once you build them, is that enough school? Is that enough school in that prototype to sustain the growth? Or are we gonna be going for a bond every 5 years because we're gonna be putting portables in these prototypes? Or is it as easy as just doing a simple design change to add 5-10 classrooms?
Yes, you can add more classrooms and you can add wings, but we really, based on all the meetings that we had with teachers, administrators, we really want to limit the size of, the ideal size is anywhere between 700 to 900. For an elementary, for a middle school, it's about 900. Maybe the instructional can give us some input into it.
Definitely, if the more students you have, the more you have to supervise. And looking at the safety aspect, you don't want to have such a large campus. More ideal would be even smaller numbers. But if you think about it, even if we end up adding, it still helps where we are now. If you look at the classrooms, definitely much better.
They can hear you from over
Won't
there.
make much of a difference. Okay. You know, I was a principal at Trotman Elementary. For those of you who are familiar with Trotman, it's unique in its design and its challenges. And when you saw the PowerPoint and you see the new classrooms, I mean, look at how that compares to a portable classroom. I don't know what the difference is in the square footage, but if you look at everything that cannot be included in a portable classroom, even just the menial things, like where the backpack's going to go, why do we have to put them on the chair, and then the minute it's too heavy, the chair's going to fall over, and things like that are menial to things that are even more important, like your instructional technology that you want to have in the classroom, and that you know, when we're looking at purchasing iPads and having that for the students, well, is that a good idea in a portable classroom? And then also bringing in students back and forth. Just think about the little first graders, because I had that situation where first graders are in a portable classroom and they have to travel back and forth. And although our facilities department is excellent about taking care of everything that they possibly can, you know, they have canopies for the kids and whatnot, but it's not the same as having everybody under one roof. And even though we might grow further, because you're thinking ahead, and yes, we may continue to grow. That's exactly why we're planning this right now. But we're in a situation right now where we don't want to have the majority of our students in portable classrooms. We want to make sure that all our students throughout the district are given the same opportunities, and that our students are excited about coming to school. So to go back to your question, where our goal really at the district is to keep our campuses at a manageable size. We do have some elementary campuses, and that's why we want to relieve. If you look at Zaparini, if you look at Perez Elementary, you know, we're over 1,000 kids. Bonnie Garcia is just right there. Colonel Santos, you know, we have these campuses where this is an elementary school. And if you look at wealthier districts, perhaps, you know, the ideal situation is to have a smaller campus. Not only to manage, of course, safety is always key, but to be able to have a classroom where you can get.
But I guess going back to my question is, I understand that ideally we want 700 to 900 students, by no means. But if the projection is there, where 5 years from now, it's inevitable that you're going to have 1,000, 1,200 students. Even if you build extra classrooms and you don't utilize them at this point, is it cheaper in this sense than to buy portables 5 years from now?
Well, let me answer it this way real quick. In 2007, we had planned for a bond election that would have alleviated all of what we're talking about. So the answer to your question is yes, more than likely we have to go for other bonds that would fix the problem. When you have one that doesn't pass, it creates the problem that we have now.
Basically, essentially, I get the sense, correct me if I'm wrong, but I get the sense that from all the data you've provided, that essentially this bond issue is really designed to catch up for what we didn't do 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. That's essentially, now yes, and I think from the data that they've shared with us, there's growth, but the growth is not dramatic anymore. But bottom line right now, what was it? You know that little graphic that they showed all of us that just really burned into my brain is the one that's showing those 8, 9 little campuses? They're not little. We are already behind by 8 or 9 schools. So essentially, that's my sense. Am I correct?
Yes, ma'am. I mean, again, had we passed
catching up.
We're catching up. We're making up for the campuses that weren't built when the need was there. When was it? 2007. And so that's essentially what this is about.
Ms. Navarro, question.
But I think what Rick is trying to ask you is, why do we build them small? You're projecting 1,000 kids at the freshman campuses. The ninth grade campus is 1,075 already. So why don't we just build them bigger. I know you want to have an ideal situation. It's not going to happen. We're growing. So why do we build them with the fact that we're going to have portables immediately? Why don't we overbuild them when it's cheaper, when we have the money, and then let us grow into
It's
them?
it's a lot easier to convince somebody, you know what, this bond election is good. And then 5 years from now, it's a lot harder to convince them saying, well, why didn't you plan it?
Right.
As you should have. Is our projection 5 years from now, or is our projection 10 years from now as far as making the district a lot better? A lot better, capacity-wise, facilities-wise?
Currently, our main focus is to relieve the overcrowded conditions that we already have. Again, like Mr. Garza mentioned, we would not be in this position had we built all the elementaries, middle school, ninth grade campuses that we had in 2007 program. So we haven't had any construction of schools since the bond program 2003, and those were planned also to catch up with what we needed since the 90s. Now, we did have a prototype elementary school with 600 student capacity, and it was not realistic. And it was a lot of debate from a group like this one that should we make those elementary schools larger. Middle schools, the same thing. They used to be 500, 600. It was discussed, Lamar Bruni can hold up to 900 to 1,000 also. But there's a lot of concern on those large mega campuses because the safety is a big issue. The traffic that it creates, because you're gonna have a lot, all the parents want to drive their kids now in elementary school to the campus, even if they live a block away. So we've got hundreds of vehicles in a 10-minute period. So the other problem is also the support areas that you have to provide, like the gymnasium and the cafeteria, the library, computer labs. The larger you start making it, the less access you have to for these general areas. So it becomes not only difficult to manage, but the functionality starts decreasing. Educators, teachers, when we have in the committee, I'm sure there's many here that would agree that smaller campuses have been proven that result in the academic achievement also. So there's got to be a break-even point where, I mean, why not build in 1,200 or 1,500? I mean, it's the same for high school. The concept was always high schools like the Old United, 1,800 is the ideal capacity for a high school. It was discussed, let's make Alexandria High School 2,400, to utilize the entire facility, and it was. And now it's overcrowded, and then now we went to United High School for 3,000. There are some districts building 4,000 high schools, but it becomes difficult to manage the security, and Mr. Gonzalez has the experience on secondary.
And I think you need to understand also, Rodriguez mentioned about, we have classrooms outside going inside, the weather. And I'm not just talking about rain, I'm talking about the cold days, which we don't have a lot of those, but we do have. If it rains, a lot of campuses, what we did at Washington Mills when I was there for 8 years, you have to hold bell. You have to hold bell. And the instructional, they have to stay where they're at because safety is most important thing. When you talk about bigger schools, let me tell you a big drawback. And you mentioned right now, your gymnasium can only be so big. Your cafeteria. So from going with 3 lunches, you might go to 4 or 5. So when you have little kids eating lunch at 10:30, and the last one eating at 1:30, that's my child, that's a problem for me as a parent. So you start building them too big, it's affecting everybody. Number one is safety, and the second one is education. In theory, I understand, but to physically be on there, it's just because we're challenging for us.
And my comment was mainly for the fact that we want the 900 student school, but we're getting the 1,100.
Well, and again,
let me add something. I think that that's something that we need to consider. Definitely, our demographer can certainly guide us in planning far ahead. And maybe the answer is not bigger schools, but let's see, well, how many schools?
More schools.
Right.
More schools.
More schools. It's classrooms. It's classrooms.
Go to 54. Yeah, look at the number of classrooms that we really need.
That's the answer. And that's what y'all are here to decide, plain and simple. We've got the numbers to show you where the projections are, and we can come up with enough schools to catch up. We can put a bond out that way. We can come up with enough schools to catch up plus a year, plus 2 years, plus 3 years. And that's what y'all are going to decide. There's one other part to that, and that is that a lot of schools, once they do get caught up, you got to you got to really think about what you want to ask the community to do right now. If you decide you want to ask the community to support you in just catching up, which might be the best thing to do, but again, we have to decide that. The reason it might be the best thing to do is it might be the safer thing to do. If we do that, we come right back to what Kathy was saying about the fact that within a year, you're looking at throwing some portables up there. How do you resolve that problem? The same way other school districts resolve it. You go out for bond another time, much smaller bond.
That's right.
The chart that we showed you guys that showed how far we are behind is a good chart to show that, but we only fall behind about 1.5 elementary schools per year or 1 middle school per year. So the cost of that, an elementary school is about 15, so if you say an elementary school and a half, you're dealing with about 20-something million per year in building construction growth that we need to catch up or to keep up. Middle school is about 25 to 30 million. So basically there's the answer. If we aren't building about $30 million worth of school every year, we're going to fall behind. So if we want to project ahead for 5 years beyond catching up, that's another $150 million roughly that we're going to have to spend right now. So do we want to ask the public for that right now or not? That's going to be what
Judd, where
you
are
guys
we?
are going to help
Where
us
are we right
decide.
now? How many schools are we behind?
We are behind 9, what would equate to 9.5 elementary schools. That's the picture I can give you. In terms of how many kids that is, that would be
Will you go
what,
back
9.5
to- go back?
times.
Well, it's the same thing that I said from day
We-
one.
we
We've
have
been here from the beginning. The
300
problem
portables.
is that everybody in here, we're gonna find a great way how to tell everybody else what our great ideas are and what we need to do. We all know that. How do we sell it? We have to sell that to
We're gonna
people
deal
that
with
don't
that
want to
one
have to
too.
pay higher taxes.
I think that's
the bottom
something
line.
that wasn't done before. Even this wasn't done before. And some of us sat on those first committees. That's, I said from the very
we have to
beginning,
sell it.
that's the key. After this key, that's the next key.
But the thing is, what we need to do is we need to, me personally, I think we need to attack this bond the way you would just a regular election. You have to get the people that would benefit, the people who are the parents with kids and want to vote. And you need to take them to the polls, literally, and grab their hands and take them to the polls because it's not going to pass if not.
You have to have a face to this election. There has to be a face, like a person, that's actually an election. But what I want to make sure to emphasize is that from a district perspective, we had planned to fill those holes. In 2007, we were going to cover what we needed to cover. Didn't happen. So now we're where we're at. In other words, had that bond passed, we probably still would have needed a small bond right around this time to cover any other hole.
And you can tell we're going to need to grow at about $30 million worth of construction a year.
And there's so many variables also. You got demographics that change in different parts of the town that maybe you needed a school, but 5 years later you don't. So then you reconvene in other areas. So.
You said nine elementaries, one middle?
Nine counts. That graphic
It's about nine.
shows about nine.
Well,
We
that's
need
just the
another middle school out
equivalent
of mine,
of
right?
the
Is
number
Washington Middle's
part.
overcrowded.
If you look at this data that Coach
by
Ballesteros and Ms. Tony put together, it'll give you a lot of good information. It shows you by feeder pattern how many portables are being currently used for elementary, for middle, and for high school. Those are really classrooms that we're behind. We should have been built already. So Washington Middle is an example.
25 classes are inside, 22 classes are outside, third of the classes are outside right now. Same size gym, same size cafeteria, same size.
Look at this, and it'll tell you what we need to build, but
Radius.
again, we're limited as to where we can build the schools because of land
I'm going to
availability.
ask the committee to do a couple of things between today and July 10th when we come back. We're going to come back on July 10th to group ourselves into 4 feeder pattern groups. But I'm going to ask every one of you to do the same thing that I'm sure you've already begun to do. Study the data. Study that all those references that they shared with us, particularly that first session. And then this is Agustin's work. This is Agustin Ballesteros who did this morning. We were fascinated by it because in one page he tells you exactly, look at the number of portables. So what we're going to do today, we're basically going to close this meeting to reconvene in the big room for closing comments. And then and today I had planned on grouping you into 4 groups, but we've run out of time. So on July 10th, when we come back, we'll group into 4 randomly. each one representing one of the feeder patterns. And if there's anything that you're interested in that would like this question that came up today, you know that you've got ways of connecting to us so that the data will be brought back to you if there's more information that you need. Is there anything else that you want to share right now before we close this meeting to reconvene in the auditorium, folks?
All that's going to be done in there when we reconvene is going to be one comment to add to the minutes. So if you don't have a comment that you want to add to the minutes, then you don't necessarily need to go up there. Any comments you make here, just ongoing comments that the group will share. If you want something on the minutes, go up there and we'll put it on there right now.
We'll be here to answer any questions that you have.
Go ahead and reconvene the meeting. Time is 8 o'clock. There was no one in here at 7:30, but I came back and let everybody know that we were going to go ahead and delay for 30 more minutes because the subcommittees were still meeting. But now that we're back on, we'll move to agenda item number 5. Agenda item number 5. Yeah, let me. Is that what it is? I think a little too far from the transmitter here. Okay, so we'll start the agenda item number 5, closing comments from the committee members. And just to restate some of the rules, any one member of the committee or group of committee that want to comment publicly can do so during this portion of the meeting. We ask that any presentations not exceed 3 persons per side for any issue. And a total of 10 minutes would be the limit. Any delegations of more than 3 persons shall appoint 1 person to present their views to the committee. Now, so I'll open up the floor. Is there anyone here from the steering committee that would like to make a public comment?
I just had a question I wanted to have it put on record. When we talk about schools, you mentioned a ratio of 24 students to 1 teacher. Have you been into this school lately?
I think the question is, when we look at schools and we look at staffing, do we only look at 24 to 1, where normally we've got some classes that are 30, 34, 35. The issue is, I think when we look at numbers, we try to get the average district-wide, but I think you're right. There are some schools, the numbers are high, and I think as we look at staffing, we normally try, I think when we do our staffing, I'm not sure if Lia's here, but we try to staff it at 25, 26 to 1 per class, and obviously sometimes it's a little higher. But we always want to staff it at a rate where teachers are able to deliver the instruction to the students.
So I'm telling Mr. Gatsa, I was just looking more towards the future.
Yes.
When we build the next high school or we build the next middle school or the 9th grade campuses, we know it's not going to be a reality at the beginning. So could we think in terms of building bigger classrooms so that we could accommodate 28 students? Because my average class size has been 28, 29.
Sure.
And that's at the freshman campus. So I just wanted a number so we could think a little bit bigger.
Okay, to make sure on record, basically, I guess recommendation, and I know we'll go back to the new facilities, to be able to build the schools, the classrooms large enough to be able to accommodate, especially at the high school, large bodies, at least 27 to 30 students. And definitely we'll look at those numbers for the class size. Yes.
Thank you for those comments. Do we have anyone else who'd like to?
My name is Sharon McLee, and I'm with the security. My question has to do with the alternative school. I'm a teacher at the alternative school, and I'm just wondering what type of security we're looking at there, and as far as growth, because we did experience a tremendous growth this year.
I think the question is, at STEP Academy, what kind of staffing as far as security do we want to look at? I think as we're looking at the budget, we're going to be able to start looking at staffing. I think at this point in time, we have either 1 or 2 policemen, a couple of security guards. I think we need that additional support at that particular area. The other item is obviously, as we look at cameras and we look at space that they have, it's beginning to get difficult. They're pretty close to each other, so we need to see what it is that we do to try to expand. And the other item is they call staffing of teachers is key. I think you're right, we grew some. So I know Ms. Benavides and the instructional people in HR are looking at trying to accommodate that, yes. Look at staff.
As far as security and additional portables?
Yes, yes. We're looking at both those items, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Raise your hand. Come back down. All right.
Sometimes the mic is not as good.
I got a pretty loud voice. My name is Tony Badilla. I am the parent of a recent graduate of United High School, class of 2013. One of the things that I want to say is basically that the discussion that I've heard in the community and close friends is a concern about ninth grade campuses. And we've discussed that at length last night and over the time. I can actually tell you, having my son attended ninth grade campus, one of the first classes, that it's something we should have. Whether it's for retention, whether it's because of the grades, whatever the reason may be, I don't have the scientific proof to tell you that it's successful. What I can tell you, that this class of 2013 for United High School had a banner year. Had the biggest graduating class in the history of United High School. So I urge you to consider a ninth grade campus. Because when you hear from the teachers, you hear from me as a parent, then I need to tell you that it's something that we really, really need to look at, and it should be something that should be instilled there. And I remember when Mr. Garza and Pamela Juarez first brought it up 5 years ago. I was at that meeting. The one thing that they said is, we're trying to keep these kids in school. That's what it's about. 4 years later, United High School had a banner year. And I've had the luxury of meeting great teachers, great graduating class. My son was part of the magnet program at United High School. So that's one part. Second part, the other thing is that when this marketing group comes together, the thing that we need to emphasize, what's going to happen if this bond doesn't pass? How many times have we seen all these mobile units being placed out there? Are we going to get to a point where we no longer have a playground for kids? Are we going to get to a point where you don't have a place to practice baseball, flag football, et cetera, et cetera? And how does that going to affect the teacher in that classroom? As Ms. Navarro was saying, is she going to have room for 28, 29 students? So when you go out there, let them know. You're going to bond no because you want to save $28, $30 a year? Look at how your schools are going to look like 5, 6 years down the line. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the comments. And I know Ms. Navarro is back here, and you're right, I think 5 years ago when we proposed to get those ninth grade campuses, I think a lot of people were very not supportive. But I think when you look at the number of students that came in for United High School 4 years ago, we had about 1,000 freshmen then. You're right, we had 950 some students graduate this year. Major difference, you've got the ninth graders together, there's not a lot of bullying. Academically, they've done well. Discipline, no doubt. Attendance, also really good. And it also gives them a year to mature. As they become sophomores, they're a little more mature. I think they can handle that better. And you're right, I think we're looking at obviously proposing 4 ninth grade campuses to all our 4 high schools. Yes. So yeah, thank you very much for the comments. And I know you're right, I think we need to market that. And also, you're right, we need to market what happens for some reason bond fails. We're going to run out of space. You're right.
But we already have.
And we already have a lot of places. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Those comments are very well taken. Very much appreciated. Do we have any other comments? Anyone else? Okay, well, I want to thank everyone that came forward and for everybody's comments. And we will go ahead and close this portion of the meeting, providing for public comments. I'm sure that Mr. Santos, as he has in the past meetings, will be around to answer any other questions that anyone might have.
We'll be here, staff will be here, Mr. Garza, Ryan, we'll be here.
All right.
Thank you all very much for being with us.
Absolutely, thanks for being here. There being no other business on the agenda, I'd like to take a motion from the steering committee to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a second? Okay, all in favor? All right, well, the meeting is adjourned, and we'll see everyone back here in this room on July the 10th at 6 p.m. Thank you.